And so that's where I don't always had the background in technology and stuff. So
Preston, what's your last name?
Monoc,
Mo-
Monoc.
Monoc.
Hmm.
I saw that, I think, on probably your Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're Tech Panda.
Tekh
Panda.
Panda, yeah.
Where?
The Marshmallow DJ or whatever, he never shows his face. So I was like, well, it's catchy, but it's extra. So
Yeah. But you show your face.
I do. So like that was my biggest pet peeve. All these photographers that think they're a hot shot, they don't want to show their face.
Strictly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, it's like, well, what do you look like? And then you try to scroll back and creeping, and you can't find their face.
Yeah.
So
You didn't like that?
I think it's just a balance.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. I wonder why they do that. Is it just like try to create this allure?
I don't know. Maybe they're just not happy with the way they look. I know some people they don't want their picture taken, but they'll be behind the scenes and make other people look good. So,
Yeah.
I don't. I get over myself.
Right.
you know.
I mean, people want to know, like, they want to know the person.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They like that's what will sell your photos, really, at the
Hmm.
end of the day, or your work in general,
And
whatever it is.
be personable.
Yeah.
And I think the panda head is more memorable. It catches your eye. It's like, whoa, what's this? Like,
Yeah, dude, that
you know.
that big head. I like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like anime or
Hmm.
oh, what was that old school that Kanye West? I think he had some characters with some like big bear heads. I don't think
Oh
they're
yeah, yeah.
I don't think they're pandas, but they're bears, I think.
Hmm. But yeah, props. They always tell you props can go a long way or whatever.
Yeah,
And so it was like $7 at Walmart. And
I can dig
so
it.
yeah.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast with Billie Jean is marketing. It was on the MFCEO project.
Hmm.
Did you listen to that one?
I think so. There's so many, so
Oh yeah, there's a
they get
ton.
lost in your head. You're like, oh, I did
Yeah,
listen to
well,
this one.
I just remember it was really good marketing information,
Hmm.
and yeah, one of them was use props,
Hmm.
and here you are talking about props.
Hmm.
It all comes full
It's
circle.
so funny because they'll talk about it, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I already do that.
Hmm. It's
But
really
this
reassuring.
reaffirms that what you're doing is like, yeah, keep doing that.
Yeah,
So,
dude.
hmm.
So how long have you been, like in the game of, creating content and video and film and AV? Like, where did it all start for you, dude?
Basically, I literally started when I was very young.
Yeah.
I think in right between middle school and high school. Funny story. We were going on a trip, and my mom told me I had some extra money for my birthday or something, and she's like, well, why don't you go buy a camera? You always take our film camera out and you take pictures, and you like taking pictures. You should buy a camera. And moms know best. And I was like, no, no, no. I want to go to Radio Shack, and I want to get a legit little DVD player so I can watch movies on my lap on our trip. Like it was like a 14-hour trip, and I'm like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, I used it maybe 3 times on the trip and put it back in my backpack. And then I get back, and I'm not gonna sit in my bed and watch DVDs all the time. So I ended up returning the DVD player, taking that money, and going and buying my first camera, which was like some little like Canon PowerShot that took little AA batteries and those big old like camera flash. It was like 500 megabyte little, like it was super small, and I mean it was probably like 6 megapixels, but I literally just took it around. Me and my brother would do like jackass kind of stuff, and like, oh yeah, do that,
Yeah.
or sunsets, go to the car show, and like literally just kind of like just learn. I always put it on auto or whatever, and just one thing led to another. I got like really big super zoom little point and shoots, and then I
Yeah.
graduated to the
Yeah,
DSLRs.
to the next one.
I always had a mentor. That was something big for me.
Oh, cool.
Is just to different people throughout my journey of being creative. And I was really big in church when I was younger, and so they basically there was a professional, and I would just ask them. They're like, "Oh, you need to shoot manual," and
Yeah.
kind of went over my head when they were talking to me about
Oh
it. And
yeah.
then what really when I kind of turned from it's a hobby or a passion to it being a professional,
Yeah.
I it was 2008. I got put an interview in a application into Prestige Portraits, and so that was kind of where I kind of earned my chops as a professional.
Yeah, doing what were you shooting there?
Uh, I was doing proms. I was doing like softball games for the yearbook.
Oh yeah.
We were doing yearbook photos where you just sit down, smile,
Yeah,
put the head in the
headshots.
box. Yeah, headshots basically for the
Yeah.
yearbook.
Uh-huh.
And I wake up at like 2:30 in the morning and get there at like,
Just
5:30 set up.
grinding it
Oh
out,
yeah, it
dude.
was crazy. We'd drive like 4 hours to some like podunk, hillbilly high school that
Yeah.
don't have a team that does yearbook or whatever. And so we would do that. And then in the slower seasons, we would go to the studio and like supplement the studios because they had studios in the city, but you would go out and reach other like urban or rural high
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
And so I learned that they actually merged and then everybody kind of got fired or whatever. And
Okay.
so
That
I've
happens.
always had a camera in my hand. I've always been, a student of that and learning and always having like a mentor, and then I had a good teacher at Prestige Portraits that turned me on shooting manual, and he explained what the f-stop is, what the ISO is, the shutter speed,
Mhm.
what all that means together.
Yeah.
It did go over my head, and then like 2 years later, I was like just messing around, and then it just like dawned on me, like the light went off in my head. I'm like, okay, this is how you shoot manual, and you
Yeah.
know,
Dude,
so.
it's definitely a process to shoot manual, right?
Hmm.
Like, cause I'm just getting into this,
Hmm.
and I research extensively.
Hmm.
So I've been learning all of this, like what
Hmm.
is aperture and your
Yeah,
shutter
a good
speed and
person actually and I would recommend. I learned from him as well. It's Jared Polin. It's Frodo's Photo.
okay.
He's huge in the kind of creative techie world. He does a lot of camera reviews, and like
Yeah.
I'm always watching his. He started a new show called Photo News,
Okay.
and so he's got a bunch of editors and everything that like pump out a ton of content. And so he's on the forefront of what's the new kind of gear and everything.
Yeah.
But he has like a lot of DVDs that teaches you, like it's really he dumbs it down. And then he
Yeah.
talks about what ISO and like it's like it's a trifecta inside the
Right. Yeah,
camera.
you're
So.
right. So, yeah,
Hmm.
man, it's fun learning because I just went straight to manual because I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this is just the way to do it, just based off my research, and
Hmm.
I've learned quite a bit. I like to watch Peter McKinnon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
man, he's good.
Yeah. I want to be him when I grow up. Yeah,
Dude.
Peter's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
watch like almost everything he does.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I've been in the industry for a long time, like in that mindset of being a photographer. And so one thing for me, since I've been in it for so long, is like you got to stay hungry. You got to be a student. You can't just be like, oh, I've arrived,
Oh
because I've
yeah.
seen people, a lot of people, even at First Form. I talk to those media guys because they're really killing it. And so
Oh
like I
yeah.
always want to be like, hey, what do you use here? Like what kind of this? What kind of that? And like what are you doing? And so like I'm always trying to be a student and looking at people that are better and communicating with them. But a lot of people at First Form have only been doing this for 2 years, and they're already working at like one of the best companies, and they're always, they don't just hire a media guy, they want the best media guy.
Yeah.
And if they've come so far in 2 years, I think, now is like the best time to be a creative, but it is kind of the worst because everybody is like a photographer now.
Yeah.
But you have so much content. Like when I first started, there was no YouTube that taught you how to do this. There was no Peter McKinnon.
Oh yeah.
There was none of that. So it is kind of a double-edged sword there. You have to be a student. You have to do your research,
Oh yeah.
and like finding new tricks and finding inspiration from other people. Like there's no idea that hasn't been thought, but you can always take that idea and be like, oh, I can implement it here in this angle and that lighting. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
Hmm.
can definitely you can only work from your own perspective.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So people will definitely they'll let the idea that oh somebody else has already done this, you know what
Hmm.
I mean, it'll stop them from doing things like so
Right.
what, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
like if you're sitting there waiting for that grand original idea, like you'll be waiting forever.
Hmm.
But yeah, just work from your own perspective and
Hmm.
just but yeah, it's certainly a process.
And definitely, like, it is kind of weird. It's a little bit off the creative beaten path, but like if you have the right mindset too, it kind of cultivates creativity,
Yeah.
and like being healthy, like mentally, it will
Oh,
definitely help
100%.
help you. Like I just noticed, like in the last couple of weeks, I kind of got a lot of personal things put like in order,
Mhm.
and like I've been like literally binge watching Ed Milet, like he's a really cool dude,
Oh
and
man, Ed's great.
I literally like I binge watched everything he did because I had some personal things happen in my life, and it just like kind of came to like a climax and like a and then the arch. And so as I was coming off that arch personally, I was like, well, I don't want to fall back into those old habits. I'm going to go put something new in my heart or my soul, and I want this to come to fruition.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that like all these people talking about success, it's all like starts with the mind. And I don't have,
Hmm.
material things. Like I'm hustling like everybody else. I'm trying to live frugal right now. I'm trying to, get out of debt and all the little steps that they're talking about.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it's funny because if you can think about it, I know one of the things I do too, Josh uh, has a coach and was talking about the I am statements, and so like
Yeah.
every morning I swear I say like I am the best creative in St. Louis. I may not be, but what can I do to be the best? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so always being a student, always learning. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
well, you
saying?
definitely have to. I mean, it definitely starts with belief.
Oh yeah.
100%, man.
Hmm.
If you don't have the belief in like who you are and what you're able to do,
Right.
deep in your heart, like you have to know, like you are. Like, yeah, you have to believe you're the best. You really do
Hmm.
have to believe it, even though realistically, like we know, there's a lot of people out there. Like,
Oh yeah.
who
There's
cares?
like Peter McKinnon,
Yeah, you can't even
like
think about them
exactly
though, right? You
right,
know what I mean? You
exactly.
just got to just do your work
But
and
what
put
can
it
I
out
learn
there.
from them and apply to my own life?
Oh, 100%.
So and it's kind of like it does. Like I don't want to like toot my own horn, but like I like in my heart I want to be the best, and
Yeah,
and and like,
you make
but you
it.
got to be humble about it too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, but know that
well, there's a
hey,
balance there for sure.
absolutely. And I always get my butterflies on a new photo shoot when I have a new client. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Like, oh man, is the lighting okay? My camera, whatever, or I forgot my battery or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and then once the day's over and you've worked all day, and then you go start going through that footage again, you're like, man. And I always like fist bump myself because I never know like what I got until you get on the computer, and then I'm like, whoa, I like and so you step into the batter's box. Anybody that plays sports or anything probably gets butterflies in their stomach, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's the same thing for me when I'm at a shoot. I'm like, man, am I gonna do good today? And then
Oh yeah.
after
Well,
that,
it's
I'm
game
like,
time, dude. I
I
mean,
know,
you're
right?
performing.
Yeah. So then but I did Evolve Fitness is a little gym in Bloomington, Illinois, and so I spent all day. And it was a long day
Yeah.
too. I mean, I woke up at 4:30, drove for 3 hours. It was
Whoa.
yeah,
Where at in Illinois are they?
Bloomington. So it's out. I think
Like,
it's
is it like?
east. No, it's like on the way to Chicago, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a long day,
Yeah.
and then one thing led to another, and I actually had to stay like an extra 5 hours, and then I didn't get home till like 1 a.m. and I started my day at 4 a.m. And so they were doing AMRAMs, as many rounds as possible. They're kind of like a boot camp type gym where it's just kind of like focused on weight loss, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you could build muscle and everything on their workouts, but it's literally just to shred body fat and get your body and like shock your body basically. But they're doing 400-meter runs, and I'm like out here with the camera, like holding it, like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
But I did it all like 9 classes, so I was
Oh
like,
wow. Man, why?
yeah,
So you stayed for all the classes?
yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Because I think in his head he wanted me to get all the instructors, and so like
Oh,
different instructors were at different times of the day, so I needed to actually stay the whole day.
I got you.
Yeah, but
Whoa.
it's a really cool video.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
worth it.
It's worth it, right? It's worth. I mean, it's worth it. You
Yeah,
gotta put in
and
the
I
extra
think
work.
the base class was like 4 a.m. and then the second biggest class was like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you got to stay there all day. But
Yeah.
now I got a ton of footage, then I don't have to go back. Especially when you first start with a company, you got to
Uh-huh.
spend a lot of time with it.
Mhm.
And then once you get like a media bank, which like anybody, like if you're looking to take pictures, if you just like spend like 4 weeks and like get a ton of models or whatever, and then you can have a media bank, and then you can just like slowly bleed those out, and then like you're set for a while
Yeah.
until you kind of like. But that's a double-edged sword too, because then if you keep on shooting, you have all these photos that you never look at. And you're like, oh, that was really good. I took that like 4 years ago.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know about that.
Hmm.
I have a ton of photos.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. I'm just processing everything you
I
just
know.
said, dude. Dude, you're grinding, bro.
Yeah.
You are grinding.
Mhm.
Um.
And I think another thing too is for me is to you don't have to post everything. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Because I
yeah.
think like I heard somewhere like some scientist said something like if you look at it and you just soak it in, you'll remember that memory instead of having a cell phone or a camera in front of you. But if you just kind of like sit back and you like look at it with your eyes, you'll remember it more than if you're like taking a picture about it. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you just, you want to take it all in. And I don't have to take a picture. I don't have to post about what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Do it for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and doing it just for yourself. And I'm guilty of it. I'm like, oh, hey, look, I'm at the gym, or hey, look, I'm at this car show. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you just like focus there and be there in the moment? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, being
So,
present is important.
hmm
Yeah, dude, there's I've said it like a few different times in this conversation, but I mean, there's just a balance to everything.
hmm
You know what I mean? So what are you shooting these days?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of funny because I was a Canon shooter for a very long time, and I
Yeah.
literally my first camera was a Canon.
Yeah.
And so I actually switched over to the Sony platform.
Yeah.
I switched to the Sony A7 III. I'm a hybrid shooter, so I needed a good picture camera and I needed a good video camera.
Right.
And so the Sony is just like right now they have the best camera for the money in my opinion.
Yeah.
Canon does have the I think it's the 1DX Mark II, but
Yeah.
that's also almost 6,000.
Yeah, that's an expensive
And then you're
camera.
talking about lenses for it. It's a full frame, so it doesn't take the cheaper lenses.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna have $2,000 lenses per,
Yeah, man, those
so
lenses get
real
expensive,
quick.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real quick.
But
But
but the
yeah,
work
Sony.
that they make are amazing.
hmm Yeah,
Holy
Peter
cow.
McKinnon uses the 1DX Mark II.
Yeah, he does. It's so
hmm
big and bulky though.
Very.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the downside. And so the Sony is not perfect. I have a lot of like not gripes, but I just things that they could improve on. And since I
Yeah.
switched, I mean the skin tones are not amazing. Like the color science is what they call it. Like
Right.
when you take a picture, it's kind of like how it looks.
Right. Yeah,
Makes you
no.
look more natural.
Yeah, and especially coming from a Canon, which, their color grade was
hmm
is supposed to be like one of the best, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But their features are lacking. They don't shoot 4K full frame 4K at 30.
That's
They're
the
gonna
issue.
crop your 4K.
Yeah.
They don't shoot HD like 120, which
Yeah.
is super slow mo.
Yeah.
And then like just Sony has so many features. It's lighter, so if you're traveling or something,
Yeah. You can get an adapter for if you wanted
hmm
to get
for your lenses, yeah,
yeah,
for
for your
Canon.
lenses, yeah.
I personally want to shoot native because I'll get the best, you know,
Now explain
image.
native.
Oh yeah, so native. Sorry to speak in Spanish, but native is like a Sony, like an actual brand. So
Right.
I wouldn't want to take a
So the
Sony
same
lens,
brand.
right?
Yeah.
But you can adapt the lenses from Canon or Nikon. They make a Metabones adapter
Mhm.
that will go on your, but the autofocus can be like
A little lag
laggy,
in there.
or it can be as not as accurate as a native lens, meaning Sony on Sony lens.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I shoot the lenses I use is I have an ultra wide 12 to 24.
Oh,
It's almost like a
nice.
GoPro. It's really cool.
That's
So I
dope.
shoot real estate a lot, and
Mhm.
so I need to get like a whole room and show the whole like
Yeah, that's
essence of the
vital.
room. Right.
Yeah.
And then I shoot with an 85. So I can
85.
like if I'm doing portraits or if I'm shooting some of the construction workers.
Yeah. What's that
Um,
stop on the 85?
that one's f1.8.
Okay.
So you gotta be careful too because if you don't hit the focus, like it'll look really bad.
Mhm.
But the eye autofocus, it kind of puts a square and it like perfectly focuses on the eye.
Mhm.
And so that Sony feature is really cool because it has that it autofocuses right on the eye. And then I also have a 35 f2.8. It's kind of like a multi-purpose lens. Like if I had an assistant or something, I can hand that off to them with a second body, and they can go get B-roll or get some pictures or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I have the 35. But
Hmm.
and then personally, for my personal setup, that's kind of like what I use like at the office and everything. And then I have another A7 III for my personal camera, and I have a 24 to 105. So it's kind of like a very broad. It's
Yeah.
not you don't get that shallow depth of field because it is an f4, but it has a very useful like multi-purpose range for video.
Yeah.
I can zoom in like not super far, but it's like in that like happy medium, as
Yeah.
far as focal range.
Hmm.
So,
I think I was watching one of McKinnon's videos, and he said he likes to use the 85 for a lot of his B-roll.
hmm
Yeah.
washes the background out, compresses the background, compressing meaning it doesn't show like everything. It'll kind of like accentuate a certain object, and then the background kind of like compresses, meaning it's not like wide,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
You have such a vast knowledge of this, or a deep knowledge,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to get to that point to where it's like I just know what each lens
Hmm.
does,
Yeah.
or glass, as they like to say.
Right. So my lens I'm going after right now, because like I feel like everybody, like I'm a gear nut, so I
Yeah,
always want like, and it's funny because it's like,
dude.
like, oh, I want this or that. I'm like, well, if you think about it, that I know some local photographers, and they only have a couple of lenses. Like they got their certain kit, and they would rather go travel instead of like going buying and get. Like I'm the opposite. I'm like, man, I'll save up for all that. I want all the cool gear.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, you already have enough gear. Just go out and create. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Go out and explore. Go out.
yeah. I mean, two
And
or three lenses. So if you only had to have two or three lenses, let's say
oh
three
man, three
lenses,
lenses.
three lenses.
I'm kind of a zoom guy. There's the zoom and prime.
Right.
So
Yeah.
prime meaning it doesn't zoom.
It
You have to
doesn't
zoom with
zoom.
your
It's just a
feet,
yep.
but you get a sharper image. But then you could miss a shot because you can't zoom in or out.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with that lens so there's the whole debate between that. But if I can only have three lenses, like I mentioned, Jared Polin before,
Hmm.
he always talks about the Hebrew Trinity, is what
Yeah.
he calls it. He's a Jewish guy, so
Uh-huh.
it's kind of funny. But anyways, I would get the 16 to 35 f2.8, whatever. If I'm on Sony, it would be the G Master, and then I'd get the 24 to 70 f2.8, and then I'd get the um, 70 to 200 f2.8. So then that pretty much covers anything.
Covers like the full
Hmm.
spectrum there.
And you can get the two times converter for the 70 to 200, and so then you'd be like a 400.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
then
and
like if you're doing birds or wildlife or something.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that would be, I mean, for the folks listening, so that you can zoom in really close
Hmm.
and get really close shots on things, or things really small or really far away.
Right, like a wildlife. If you're in Alaska or something, at a 70 to 200 with a converter,
Yeah.
you could reach out and get a moose that's like way over there.
Yeah. What's that called? A macro lens?
Mm-mm.
No. What's
A,
that called?
a telephoto.
Telephoto
Yeah,
lens. There we
macro
go.
lens is
Macro
something.
is when what? Tell me. Yeah. No.
Macro is like if you wanted to take a picture of a wedding ring
Oh
and you
yeah.
want to get like right in on the diamonds and the detail, like
That'd be a macro.
it's almost like a microscope
Yeah.
like look.
Okay.
That's what it does.
And
It's
that's a,
like zooms in on something
yeah.
detailed.
And the other one's telephoto.
Telephoto, so you can like
Telephoto.
reach out and take pictures of something super far away.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
And then you have like a ultra wide is what they call it, and that's like something like you'd want like for landscapes or
Yeah.
real estate, or if you're doing like a skyline shot of the sunset of St. Louis
Yeah.
or something,
Mhm.
you'd want a super wide angle lens to get all of that.
Yeah.
So, hmm
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I
Man, dude.
know. So yeah, it's
I love
definitely a
it.
passion. I
I, sp-
eat, breathe, and sleep it.
Dude,
So.
I spend hours and hours like just learning about this stuff. It's
Hmm.
it's it's so much to learn. And but it's one thing like getting the information, and it's another thing like actually going and like applying it on the
Right.
camera and like taking the shots
Hmm.
and like figuring out like oh like like just playing with the different settings
Hmm.
and getting like the right lighting and shot.
It's funny because you can be like so. Another one of my mentors along the way. Shout out. His name is Steve Alejandro, and so he's just a normal photographer. He works for a company, and he's an in-house creative like
Uh-huh.
I myself. But at the time, I was working at Lou Fuse,
Mhm.
and I needed somebody that was better than me. And man, I can tell you, he's like one of the best that I've seen.
Mhm.
And he's not like super famous or anything, but he has a good heart, he has a good work ethic, and he knows his stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he told me, I remember the first time we had lunch together, and he said that if you can manage business and art at the same time, you'll be like one of the most successful people
Yeah.
because you can be the best artist, you can be the best technically, you can have the best lighting, the best anything, and you can make a piece of art on a camera. But if nobody sees it, you're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
And then if you're a really good businessman and you can barely take pictures, you're not technically sound, well then it's kind of like you're BSing at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're not really that good, but like I like your business skills. And I know that you can do business and you can work with people really good, but man, your picture's lacking, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So but if you can be both of those,
Yeah.
then like you're pretty much unstoppable, you know?
Yeah, dude, that's a hard balance to find.
Absolutely. I mean, you look so like Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, all like Grant Cardone, all of these dudes, they are not even like photographers themselves, but they have somebody with them.
Oh
And so they
yeah.
take that art and man, I look at all of their guys' videos and I always like low key am like critiquing what, and some of them have come a long way.
Oh, dude, I'm constantly just looking to see
Hmm.
what they're doing. I'm like, oh, it's very good. It's interesting to see the evolution.
Oh, absolutely. Because like the first, if you go back to Ed Milet's first couple of videos, I'm like, oh, whoa, like I would have not used that shot, or man, you're not like moving when it's just distracting, you know. So one thing that I did get from church is like you don't want to be a distraction to what's going on, right? So whether that be a camera shot, so you want to be really like a really good camera person or just executive producer, making sure everything is polished. But if
Yeah.
you go back and I'm like, man, like this is like I'm trying to listen to what they're saying. Like when he came to St. Louis and interviewed Andy, it's like one of his like first videos he's ever done, Ed
Okay.
Milet, when he went to Andy Frisella's
Hmm.
garage and like some of their camera shots were like I'm like, whoa, like this is a little bit distracting. I would have maybe have chose that shot. You know what I'm saying? But I
Yeah.
get that they're trying to like you got to catch somebody's attention and like those first three or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And so if you don't do that, they're just gonna click off, right? So I understand that they're trying to like chop it up to chop like kind of like trip the brain to like keep watching because it's moving constantly.
Yeah.
But like it was a little bit like I was like, oh man, like you showed some of the camera there, like I can see the camera guy. Like if that's what they're going for, like a behind the scenes look, I
Yeah.
totally get it. But it's funny because but that was way over. And now you look at the stuff he does now, like they have like those motion graphics. So when he's talking about say like pain or suffering or like he talks about blissful dissatisfaction or whatever and it like pops
The
up like
flash
that,
up. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like man, this is super cool. Or like do a drone shot of like his whole property or something and you're like
Yeah.
whoa. And then or they do like those stock footage shots where it's like someone's just like just like they're working out or like businessman and like it's like a stock shot and it's like
Yeah.
that's really cool because it's kind of like it visually you understand what it visualizes and it's really cool to see
Right.
and
Th-
they
They're
came a
they've
long
gotten
way.
better at telling
Oh yeah,
stories.
for sure.
Yeah, like visually.
But yeah,
It's a process. I think it's
yeah.
cool that you can at least see like the growth in the process. You can
Hmm.
even look back at like old like Gary V
Oh
stuff
my
and
gosh,
like
dude. Oh
it
man,
just like D-Rock's gotten better, like the
cringeworthy for
team's gotten
sure.
better,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah.
dude, and like Gary V, he like just uses his cell phone most of the time. It's crazy, and like everybody just wants to hear what he's saying. And that's the thing too. Like I see so many creatives like they have a good idea but they cannot execute. Like
Yeah.
they want to make sure all their ducks are in a row. And sometimes I feel like it is a double-edged sword here too, but you got to get out and create. You got to keep on pumping content out.
Yeah.
And you'll get good along the process.
Yeah.
You can't just wait till like the sun is perfect and the lighting's perfect or
Good
whatever.
enough.
You know what I'm saying? So you need to like just keep on putting content out and then you'll get better. You can tweak things along the way instead of like, oh, I got to be perfect. I make sure this is the perfect image. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So I
That'll
feel
slow
like
you down.
it will. And
Yeah, big
so
time.
like if I can pump out so much content, well, I'm like, man, you do videos, but man, you can't touch the volume. You know what I'm saying? And get
Yeah.
better along the way if you don't post all the
Volume
time.
matters. That's man, it's such a tough balance there
Hmm.
because if you are trying to create, good content,
Hmm.
but you're always putting out content, you only have so much time to really sit on things or else it gets old. But I mean, and then you create that bank, right? And
Hmm.
so at least you have things to go to, but
Right.
there's
It's
there's a
difficult.
lot of pieces to it.
You can't just wait for everything little ducks to go in a row. You got to execute on it. You got to like be consistent at it. And
Yeah.
I actually started a YouTube channel because I'm trying to be have my own online brand basically,
Yeah.
talking about like what we're talking about now, gear reviews and everything like
Oh
that.
hell yeah, dude. What are you gonna call it?
It's Tech Panda.
Tech Panda.
Yeah,
Oh,
Tech
you've already
Panda.
started it,
I've
right?
already started it.
So
Yeah,
we're plugging it now.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So basically, Tech Panda. It's kind of like I do vlogs. This shows like what a creative does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Um, I have been slacking the last couple weeks, but like this
It's
life
constant.
happens.
It's constant work. That's
Hmm.
what people don't understand. Like
Oh, it's another.
behind the scenes, you're
Hmm.
you're always working.
Hmm.
Like and it doesn't look like much because for most people it's just you like sitting on your computer. But it's like you're sitting there. You have to pour over
Hmm.
so much footage, so many images, just hours and hours of
Once you get in the hang
video.
of it, though, like you're like, all right. So if you shoot something, you just kind of like drag and drop.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
create your workflow so that you speed it up, but it's
mhm.
still
It
it's
still
the
work.
process, and it's very repetitive.
Oh yeah,
That's the thing. It gets
it's mundane.
even once you figure out your workflow, it's very repetitive, and
Right.
it's like, oh yeah, this isn't that hard, but I gotta go through these same steps over
Hmm.
and over, and it's like it never ends.
It never ends.
It
Yep.
never ends.
But it's like
So
you
you
gotta
have to love it.
find. Oh, I do. It's
Yeah.
you have to.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
100%.
mean, like, so I also work full time. I'm an in-house creator for K-Build. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually interviewed my boss. So
Yeah.
just the correlation there. So I work at K-Build. I'm an in-house creative, and basically I do this full time, and then on the side I'm always
You're
creative.
the in-house like creator
Mhm.
for them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm like the first person that they kind of took a chance on. So it's kind of cool because my boss literally watches all the guys we've mentioned, like, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. He watches Ed Milet, all Andy, all those guys.
Yeah.
And so it's funny you watch him because he's doing what all those guys did. All those guys hired a guy to follow around with a camera and edit all
Oh,
their videos.
yeah.
So yeah, construction, like man, I've never seen, and it's hard because you go and you look at other people, so you can see what like
It's
other
very
people.
forward thinking.
Oh man, like nobody is doing any kind of media for construction. Like, oh man, we're gonna get word of mouth anyway. Like, oh whatever.
No,
But if we're
yeah.
constantly in people's minds and like constantly showing stuff that we've done and showing our portfolio, when people need to, fix something, or you need like, you need a backsplash done or something, or maybe you don't want to do that, like we're on the forefront. Oh yeah, yeah, those cable guys.
Oh
Like, oh, look at
man.
this. So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. But the workflow there. So if I get that down, I can also just translate that to my personal life. If I'm doing a vlog, if I'm doing
Oh
a
hell yeah.
review or something, and so it's kind of cool because it kind of goes hand in hand. But you just get that workflow down, and you have to do it. And like even the construction guys, they sit there and they will put, mortar on tile, and they'll do that for 8 hours straight. And I'm like, dude, you have to love this because, man, if you put me, that is not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
When I actually, if you rewind like not even 2.5 years ago, I was very bitter. I was very resented towards the whole world, everything. I was at a dead end job I was working at an auto place, and I was a porter. So I'd pull cars in and out for an oil change or whatever, and it was just not a fun job. And
Oh
you're
yeah.
in the elements; it's not fun. And so I was fixing the Zamboni, and the Zamboni was, broke, and basically cleaning the floors or whatever. And it was a simple fix. And then like I didn't know it, and I'm not mechanically driven. I'm not handy. I'm not. That's not where I'm. That's not
Yeah.
where I'm called, right? And so I'm sitting there, and the mechanic comes over. He's just laughing at me, like, whatever. And in my back of my head, it just kind of like clicked. I'm like, this is not where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not good at this. And he came over and like switched the knob and did this, and he's like, dude, it's so easy. And I'm like, not for me,
Yeah,
like,
like your brain doesn't work that
oh,
way.
not at all. And so it clicked for me, but like Andy Frisella says, it doesn't matter where you're at. It's always preparing you for where you're going to be.
Yeah.
And so like that job was there for me to learn certain things, and now it set me up for success on the job at K-Build, my career there.
Yeah.
And so like it just clicked on me like, hey, I'm meant to be a creative. I'm meant to, dominate the creative space. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny
So what was the
because
lesson from that job? Just that like that wasn't meant for you.
grit,
Yeah, grit.
dealing with difficult people,
Oh yeah.
and learning that, uh, and I was always comparing to other people. That was another thing, was I would compare to other people that were already being creative and are, already doing certain things. And I just, I was in difficult people for sure, and
Yeah.
situations too, and also looking at how not to treat people
Yeah.
and not how to conduct your business, because there were just certain things that were very dysfunctional there. And it was very just eye-opening. But when you're in it, you're just like so mad. You're like, why is this and why that, and this is so stupid, and you just get caught up on the lies that kind of trip you up,
Yeah.
and then, I kept on like every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. I was taking pictures of a model. I was out taking pictures of something. And one model, her name was Colin, and she actually was working at Cable at the time, and we're still good friends and everything. But we just went out, took pictures, and I was pretty much bitching on the way home, and And she's like, you know what? Like, my boss is looking for a creative guy. Like, you would be the perfect guy. Like, you take so many cool pictures and whatever. And like, she's a very fun, bubbly person. And she goes back, and I'm like, whatever. I've been promised the world. I was gonna be so and so's photographer, and they
Yeah.
never fell through. And I was been promised the world here,
Yeah.
promised the world there. And so I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever. Just gonna go back to my job, keep on doing
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And not even like 2 days later, she's like, "Hey, my boss like has been following you for a while, and he would like to get you in for an interview." And I was like, "Really?
Right on.
Okay, cool, like right on." And so I took a sick. I actually took a sick day at my old job. I'm like, "Whatever, dude. I'm gonna take a sick day." I got like 6 of them, so
Yeah.
I took a sick day and dressed up, went in for the interview, and I went into Josh and Rochelle were both there, and I'm like, "Man, look at this place. This is crazy."
Oh man, it's immaculate when you
It's
walk
so
into that
crazy.
place.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's so
I get
nice.
you desensitized to it. When people walk in, you're like, "Oh, this is a cool place." It's just like you're
Yeah,
there
it's
every
just
day.
really nice.
It's crazy. But it was funny because I was meant to be there at that time, at that moment. So I showed them my highlight reel basically. It's like my resume. So Josh looked at my resume maybe once. My physical piece of paper resume.
That's
He
so
just
outdated. It doesn't even
right.
matter.
Exactly. So he kind of like, all right, this is pretty much who he says he is. Cool. All right. And then I showed him
So
my
you're like,
video.
yeah, let me see what you
He's
can
like,
do.
dude, this is what I want for K-Bill. This is awesome. And so pretty much he spoke vision to me. And I'm like, this is going really, really good. And so at the time I was making so much an hour. He's like, I'll pay you $1 more an hour. Like, to be honest, I would have took less money. Don't tell him this, but I would have took less money to go do something that I love. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting $1 more than I was already working there, and I
Yeah.
got to do what I wanted. And I'm not just a number. Like, Josh respects me. There's a mutual respect. He respects my creative judgment,
Yeah.
and
Your
so
opinion.
oh yeah. And so basically, they pretty much spent 2 hours of them speaking vision, like, First Form and all them, and I'm like, yeah, I watch all of this stuff. Like, they're local, they're cool.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know who Tyler is? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, Tyler's awesome. He's cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of Andy's executive producer or creative dude or whatever. And I was like, he's like, can you be our Tyler? And I'm like, what? Yeah, heck yeah, man, sign me up. I'll start tomorrow for
Yeah.
real. So then I put 2 weeks in, and then I started there, and man, it's the best thing that has ever happened
It's
to
been
me.
2 years now.
No, a year,
A
a
year
year and
now.
almost a half.
Okay.
And so Josh is like definitely someone that pushes. He wants to be the best. He wants to dominate, and it's cool to have him pour back into me and respect me. And he pushes me to be harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like that double-edged sword that you got to give affirmation and be like, dude, you're doing a good job, bro.
Yeah.
But then you got to be like, all right, but we can be better. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. No, I just did the best video ever. Like, I can't get better. But
He's like,
that's a
no,
mental block. And
yeah.
he's
He's like, you
always like,
certainly can.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So as much as I put in is as much as he gives back. And so, if you put 80, 90 hours a week, I mean, I'm salary, so I'm not getting paid extra.
Yeah.
But I'm pouring into something that I know I will reap the benefit of
Yeah.
it in the future.
Yeah.
So like all those long days, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't feel like work to me. I'll stay till like midnight every night editing videos,
Yeah.
constantly doing more. And so we're like building I don't know many people that will hire you and then want you to build a business in their business
Yeah.
and give you all the tools to
To
succeed.
do so. Yeah.
Dude, that is so rare. And it's awesome because I know the opportunity I have there. And if
Oh
I don't
man.
succeed, it's like an obligation. I have to succeed. If he's pouring this much in,
Yeah.
then I need to step into the plate, into the batter's box, and hit a home run.
Yeah. 100%.
So, like, it's so cool because he's done so much, and
Yeah.
he gives so much to that company. I've seen business people that will step on people to get up.
Yeah.
It's not how you're supposed to do it.
No, man, he's definitely cultivating a really good culture there. Him and
Absolutely.
his wife both, and they're doing things that nobody else is like in their industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
will be interesting.
Yeah, dude, you're in a good company
Oh
for
man,
sure, dude.
I am very excited. And it's kind of cool because I get to grow with him.
Oh yeah.
And he's very successful. And we actually we had breakfast the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, and that was kind of like right where it kind of clicked for me in my personal life because you do the work, you do all the hard work, you listen to it all the time, but
Yeah.
when it actually comes to fruition, which that happened for me recently, I was like, you know what, I need to stuff because I had a void in my own life, in
Yeah.
my personal life, and that actually came like I took the root of bitterness out, and so I wanted to stuff
Yeah.
like good stuff in,
Mhm.
right, to replace all of that nastiness.
Yeah, man.
And so like it clicked for me. I'm like, you know what? He's more successful than me. He has a business. I'm obviously working for him. And so what can I do? What can I ask? What are the questions I can ask? So because I want him to be in my inner circle and like I want to aspire to be better. And
Mhm.
so if I can go to lunch, if I can pay for someone's lunch and like go ask them questions, be like, "Hey, like how do you do this? How do you do that?" And if I can learn and be a student, well then I ultimately will level up, you
Oh,
know.
dude, 100%.
Mhm.
It really matters the people that you surround yourself with, and
Mhm.
it's super important to cut out the ones that, drag you down. As bad as that
It sucks,
sounds,
man.
it
Like
does suck.
especially if it's someone close to you.
Man, I've definitely had to quit hanging out with people just because, like, not because they're a bad person or they did anything wrong. You're it's just the things that you're doing and your energy just isn't going to, like, we're just on different paths, so it's like we have to separate at this moment.
And if it's not parallel to where you're going, unfortunately, you just have to distance yourself from that person.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, man, it's
And especially
unfortunate,
if,
but
yeah, it
you
sucks
have to
when,
do it.
yeah, and definitely like change is something big for me.
Yeah.
I'm 30 years old, and so like, I'm not 18, 15 with all my family. We're not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's like everybody's starting their own life, and even though I've been an adult for a long time,
Mhm.
it's still like change is like you gotta accept it, and you're not gonna be going back, and Ed Milet is something that really just stuck with me, and he said it doesn't matter whether it was good or bad, whatever got you to this point will not get you to the next point. So you
Yeah.
gotta understand, even if it's good, you can't look at your past things. You can't like, oh yeah, I made a touchdown in high school and I won the state championship. Well, that doesn't matter.
It's done,
It's
dude.
done,
Yeah.
right? So, and even Andy says the 24-hour rule. If you get a win, absolutely smell the roses. It's awesome. You won. But guess what? You're going to have to step in that batter's box again
Yeah.
tomorrow. What are you going to do to outdo yourself?
Dude, my issue is I skip that 24 hours. I don't celebrate
Oh,
anything.
man. I get it, man.
Sometimes I feel like people celebrate the most, like, mundane things. And I'm like, well, those are wins. Like, I got to get better at celebrating even the most mundane because I
Oh, I'm
celebrate.
brushing my teeth. I'm taking a shower.
What,
Woo!
yeah, well, it's just like, for example, like with the podcast, it's like, oh man, it's like the podcast is like in like a new country or something. Like some people like would really celebrate that, and I'm just like, all right, cool.
That's awesome.
I don't even
Right.
I don't even talk about it.
hmm
So I just got to get better. Just like celebrating like the small wins, man.
hmm
Yeah, it's important,
And like,
but you can't live in them, right?
right. And so it's funny because the coach that's coaching my boss pours that back into our office there.
Yeah,
And
Ben,
so it's yeah, Ben Newman.
Ben
And oh
Newman,
my gosh, dude, the dude's awesome.
such a rad dude.
Yeah, and so basically or not the I am statements, it's the prize fighting day, right?
Uh-huh.
And so like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that prize fighter mentality.
Yeah, that compound pounding, like a rock, water can destroy a rock, but it's not going to happen overnight. You got
Mm-mm.
to keep on pounding
It's
it.
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so basically, you can look at someone's life, and if they made bad mistakes, bad choices, just physically, mentally, and everything, it compounds. And when you're 60 years old, there's nothing to show.
Yeah, same
You
thing
know,
with good ones though, right? Make
it's
good
same with the good
decisions. Yep,
ones,
dude,
right?
things just build over time. That's the
hmm
thing. If you just do a little bit every day,
hmm
I mean, that over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, that's how people get successful.
Right.
You just can't go away. Success is a lot of it is just showing people you're not going away.
hmm
Man, it's really not complicated, but it's not easy. That's the thing.
Even if you were 60, in my opinion, you can't look at other people's tree. You got to plant the tree today
Yeah.
and water that tree. Keep on pouring in. You may not have time on your side, but you could still turn it around. You know what I'm saying? Your
Oh
best
yeah.
days are always ahead of
It's
you.
never too late.
Mm-mm.
Oh man, a lot of people make things happen later in life.
hmm
And it's all relative. I'm gonna live till I'm 100.
There you go.
Dude, for real, I'm be around for a
I'll be
minute.
glad if I make it to 80 or 90.
Bro, you can do it. You can do it. It's just all
Yeah,
about just creating certain lifestyle
right.
habits.
I'm not even worried about that right now. I'm like young, like worried about today or tomorrow, but
I
yeah.
think about it all, man. So having fought for so long, and like I feel there's like I can really feel like directly like how I think and how I feel just like physically based off like just certain like just routines. Like am I getting enough water? Am I eating certain like I'll
Right.
feel that immediately, and
hmm
it'll affect my work. It'll
Oh,
affect my
absolutely.
energy.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be out in the field creating content. And when I'm in the office, it's really easy to be on that schedule of eating, making sure you got all your calories in, making sure you drunk all your water. But when you're out in the field, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about creating, especially when you're on the job site, right? The
Yeah.
construction site. You don't have all those things, and so usually I'll just take like a snack, like a tuna and Triscuit or whatever, and a couple of waters, so I know like the 3 to 4 hours that I'm not in the office that I'll be able to still be able to keep going. But I definitely know when I miss it and I'm too busy, you can
Yeah.
you can definitely feel it.
Well, I do a lot of fasting. I'm not necessarily worried about like how much I eat because I actually fast a lot. I don't typically eat until noon.
Okay, like
Um,
fasted cardio and all that.
yeah, I mean, I'll work out in the morning fasted
Hmm.
sometimes. But I usually only eat like twice a day.
Okay.
So for me, it's not necessarily like just making sure I get enough calories in, because like in a sitting, I can eat a ton of food.
All
But
right.
dude, it's crazy. But just yeah, just making sure that like I'm getting like the right nutrients, like the right
Hmm.
kinds of foods,
Right.
like make sure I'm getting enough water, just like getting movement in because it's really easy to sit behind the computer and just work all day and like
And just like, yeah, donuts come in or
or yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
especially if you're in an office, like donuts come in or different
All
things. There's
right.
a lot of temptation there. But like so, our gut health will directly like affect our when like the things that we eat affects our gut health, and that would affect our brain health. Like
Hmm.
so, people who tend to eat like a lot of carbohydrates or like processed foods, they have like typically what they experience when they cut those out is like a lifted like usually explain it like a brain fog, like it's like kind of
Hmm.
lifted.
Hmm.
So I mean, dude, like our mental clarity will 100% dictate like our output and like what we're able to do. So
Hmm.
I just think just having those good routines and just kind of giving, I don't know, just kind of giving my body what it needs will
Absolutely.
carry over into everything else. So with that, I'm
Yeah.
definitely want to live till being 100.
There you go. That's a good goal to get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, it's very feasible to in
Hmm.
today's
Oh,
fucking
absolutely.
climate. We're
Yeah.
learning so much about health all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So it's funny because I was actually I'm still on my journey, but I don't
Yeah.
know if Josh told you, but he I was at his house. We were doing family pictures for a Christmas card, and he looked at me, and actually Facebook was the culprit here, and I saw an old picture of myself back in 2009 at a family Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I just reshared the memory, and my boss was like, "Man, I didn't even know that was you, bro." And like, man, what would it take for you to get back to that? Your fighting weight, and I was 280 pounds at the time. And the picture that he saw, I was like 150.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big difference.
What do you weigh now?
236.
Okay.
So
S- So
basically,
you've lost 50 pounds.
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right on the cusp of 50,
Yeah.
like a couple of pounds. But
Yeah. 40. What'd you say?
44.
44
Yeah,
pounds.
so I'm
Hey,
almost
man.
to 50. Yeah,
Yeah.
halfway. So basically, he's like, "What would it take?" And I knew I watch Andy like he's my pastor, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew I was like, whatever, dude. Man, if you bet me 10 grand, Andy did it to his guy, and then
Dude.
he looked at me square in the face. He thought for a second. He's like, "I'll do 5 grand
Yeah.
if you lose 100 pounds by your next birthday, 2019." So I got till December, and so I'm like pretty much on track right now. But I've literally overhauled my life physically.
Oh, dude.
I
We gotta get you there.
I know,
Get you
man.
that 5K.
It's funny because I tell people the story, and I was at the NRA show, and my buddy, I was like, so we were out. It was like 2 in the morning. They were bar hopping, and so I'm pretty much just stuck with the group, right? And so I was like, man, are we getting potato wedges? Loaded potato wedges? He's like, no, we're getting you that money. We're going home. I was like, hey, like someone like keeping me accountable. So,
Yeah, dude.
but and so it's the little battles too, because it's like we'll have clients or salesmen that sell like hardwood floors or tile. They'll come in to do a meeting, or a cabinet guy, and they'll always bring like treats or something in, and you're just like, oh, dude, that St.
Yeah.
Louis bread pumpkin muffin looks real good right now.
Yeah,
you
dude.
know,
I just had whenever I worked in an office, I just used to have to tell myself like that's not real food.
Mm.
I'm like, ah, it's not even real food anyway.
It's like empty calories.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's because a calorie isn't a calorie. There's definitely like nutrient dense calories that pack a punch and actually are really good for you.
Hmm.
And there's some that are they're nothing. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah, I
just
remember hearing someone say that they're overweight, but they're starving themselves.
yeah, man. In
Yeah.
America, we're people are more fed than ever, but they're starving. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Because
Right.
they're not getting any sort of nutrition. There's no vitamins. There's no
I mean, like a
nutrients.
Monster has like 1,000 calories or something really close to it, like just full of sugar.
Sugar,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Fat was a culprit for a really long time, but fat's actually good for you.
Oh yeah.
Um,
My parents do there's like a like a fatty coffee or something that they do, and like it levels your hunger or whatever out or
So,
something.
well, yeah, I mean, if you put fat in your coffee, it can do a couple different things. It can definitely help with hunger for sure, but
Hmm.
because you're getting some calories with it, so it will also slow down the absorption because you're pairing the fat with the caffeine, so it'll slow down the absorption of the caffeine. So, if somebody were to like get jittery from coffee or something like that, it will
Mm-hmm.
help with that. You won't get
Right.
jittery or whatnot. I don't know. I put some in mine this morning. Yeah, like
It levels it out.
that
Yeah.
MCT oil.
Hmm.
Yeah, Jumbo CBD.
Yeah. So yeah, like and I noticed that, I'm completely like I feel way better. I feel more clear, like the whole like 9 yards when they talk about like getting your
Yeah.
physical fitness. So,
Yeah, just moving your body every day.
hmm
Drink. It's really simple, dude. You just gotta get some movement in every day. Even
hmm
if it's just like 30 minutes of walking, just do that every day.
so funny thing. So we're very busy. Every day I'm very busy.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to like just make time for it. But where I found like literally 2-3 minutes. So I drink a lot of water, and so you're always using the restroom. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, shoot, every time I use the restroom, if I do 25 calf raises and walk the stair 4 times,
Yeah.
if I do that 10 times throughout the day, well, then that adds up to close to probably 30 minutes. I don't know. But
Yeah. I
like
mean,
I'm
just
just walking the stairs every time I use the restroom.
create routines like that
Hmm.
for sure, man. Or you do some air squats, do some push-ups. Like,
Yep.
I mean, there's some different things you can do for sure, man.
Yeah, it's like when you're sitting editing all the time, that's like the hardest part's like tripping that brain, like, oh, I gotta go move. But if I just do it when I'm already up, it's that
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
and when I'm out in the field, like we have like a delivery, so I'll do a delivery and then go shoot content, and like they have like it's like probably 3,500 pounds of hardwood, and man,
Yeah.
it was used to be hard. It used to kill me to lift wood in one spot to the other,
Yeah.
but now like it's easier.
Yeah, it's getting easier. It'll
Yeah,
only get easier.
yeah.
Yeah, man. That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
And
Hmm.
if I can do it in my physical, if I can lose 100 pounds, well, what could stop me in business? What can stop me in my
Dude,
relationships?
your
Pretty
mental
much nothing,
nothing, dude.
know.
Your mental's gonna get way stronger.
Hmm.
100%.
And I'm always looking at like, uh, you know, like where like when I'm rowing the machine, I'm not looking at like, hey, I'm here at the gym. I'm like, no, like this is meant for something. I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm breaking through all that old crap that used to hold me back.
Yeah. What you're eating like nowadays?
So, um, I went to supplement superstores. They kind of have like their whole diet thing
Yeah.
or whatever. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, but
Yeah, I used to
yeah.
work there way back in the day. We weren't doing diet plans like that. And there's a lot of different ways to eat, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So,
Basically, I'm trying to eat periodically throughout the day.
yeah. Because
And
they tell
not.
you to eat like 5 or 6 times a day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like you eat more, but it's like you eat more frequently. You don't eat more calories. So people
Hmm.
think like, oh, I'm gonna eat like 7,000 calories. Like, no, you're gonna pretty much eat enough, but you're gonna eat more good food, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
You're
mean, you
not.
can, dude, the thing is, it's not necessarily about how much you eat, it's just
Hmm.
about, like, what are you eating? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Because you can eat a ton of, like, I don't know, broccoli or any vegetable. You can prepare a huge salad
Hmm.
and, like, it's not a ton of calories. Where people mess up is, like, they'll put, like, dressing on it or something.
Mm.
Like, that's where people will screw up. But you can actually have, like volume-wise, it's a lot of food. You know what I mean? So if you're
Hmm.
just splitting it up throughout the day, I mean, you'll get plenty.
Yeah. So I start the morning off with a meal replacement shake,
Yeah.
with a yogurt or an apple or something like that. And then a couple hours later on, I'll have like a tuna packet and some Triscuits. Not like a whole lot, not a whole box, but
Mm-hmm.
and then at lunchtime I'll have eggs, spinach, and rice, and that's kind of like my bigger
What kind of rice?
jasmine rice.
Jasmine rice.
Yeah,
Hmm.
not a whole lot. It's like a little bit, because they said you have to have a protein with a carb or something.
I mean,
I don't know.
you don't absolutely have to, but yeah,
Hmm.
you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have like like a protein bar, like if it's like throughout the day and I just need to eat or something, and then I'm
Yeah.
drinking water.
What protein bar are you eating?
The first form ones
The
are really
first one.
good.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
pretty good.
they're
Yeah.
really good. I
Yeah.
tried the MRE and the one and the Quest, but
Yeah.
they're not good.
Mhm.
So, but the first form ones are dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
They're good,
Mhm.
but and it's like, man, this tastes like a Snickers bar.
Mhm.
I don't eat them like all the time, but then and then the nighttime is where I struggle a little bit,
Oh yeah.
you know. But
Absolutely.
I
That's hard for a
usually
lot of people.
like either it's another meal replacement and like a piece of cheese and a meat, so I
Mhm.
don't like eat the bread or whatever. Just eat that real quick,
Yeah.
and then I'm just drinking water like crazy, like it's going out of style. So
Yeah. Do you drink water first thing in the morning before you eat anything, or do you eat first?
I just do the meal replacement and like a yogurt or something because I'm
Oh
like on the
yeah.
go. I don't like make eggs or whatever. So
Oh yeah. But you don't like drink water. I'd recommend, for what it's worth, I'd recommend drinking water first thing in the morning. It's like a bath for your organs.
okay.
It's just w- for a couple of reasons because throughout the night when you're sleeping, we typically, I mean, just through like breathing and sweating,
Mhm.
you're gonna lose up like a pound of
I
water.
noticed that. It's like you
Yeah.
get on the scale. I'm like,
Yeah, so you're
yeah.
gonna lose like a pound of water. So I mean, the first it's rehydration is pretty important first thing in the
Okay.
morning, just for the whole system. So what I like to do, and you don't have to do this, you can just drink water. But I would drink probably, I don't know, like a liter of water, good amount of water, pretty big glass of water. I usually put some lemon in there for like the flavonoids and some antioxidants, and then also like I'll put some apple cider vinegar in there. Just it's
Yeah.
good for the
My mom always
digestion.
talks about that.
Yeah, it's good for digestion and supposedly helps with like your blood glucose levels. And then like I'll add some salt to it as well, just for
Hmm.
the like for the because salt is an electrolyte and it'll help
Hmm.
with the absorption.
Yeah,
So
I grew up healthy. My dad worked out like every day or
yeah,
5 days a week since high school.
yeah,
So my dad's like a big dude, and my mom would always wake up at 3:30 in the morning. She
oh
would go
really?
out and work out because if you have we I have she has 4 kids, so I have brother and 2 sisters.
Hmm.
So like you have no other time but really early in the morning. So she
Yeah,
would go out, she would do like an aerobics or something, and she did that pretty much my whole. She still does it. They still do it, and so it's kind
nice.
of funny because when I moved out, I could I could have uh
Whatever you
I
wanted.
could have exactly I could have a whole case of Oreos and not just one. We didn't even have Oreos like at my house. We had no soda. We had milk and water, and then we'd do chicken, some kind of green, and like some like those like little itty bitty like those brown rices, the rices that you're like, oh, not jasmine rice. It was like the good stuff that was good for you.
Yeah,
And she was like, "Oh, did you have your water today?" Like she was a very health conscious mom, and
yeah.
which is awesome.
That's how I am with my
So I
kids.
know how to be healthy. I just chose not to be healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like
gotta
so.
get back on it.
Oh yeah. So now like it's not like I know it. Like I still like the water. Like that's something new that I can apply to my life and be better. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. So
yeah.
that's something that I can always apply.
Dude, there's a lot, man. So that's the thing. We're learning stuff every day, and even
Hmm.
like the things that like our parents, well, my parents didn't know anything, but like even like what healthy people thought were healthy, like back in
Hmm.
the day, like we found out like through science and research today that there's been just so much misinformation. We're just learning new things every day about
Right.
like what really is healthy. So there's just so much to learn.
Hmm.
It's crazy. It's
It's funny
crazy.
they were probably they're ahead of their time, and now we're kind of like now
Oh
it's way
yeah.
different. They can just pivot. Like if you're already a health conscious person, you could pivot,
Yeah.
whereas opposed to somebody that's like just had a lifetime of just bad
Absolutely, because you already
habits.
have
Yeah.
healthy. There's some things we're right for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Getting
But
up and moving was probably the first one. My
oh
dad like
yeah,
they're always
yeah, getting up and
yeah
moving early in the morning, drinking water, like they're definitely
yeah.
on the ball for sure,
Hmm.
dude. Well, man, I don't want to keep you
Yeah,
because
no.
I know you actually have to get to work.
Yeah, man.
But this has been a great
Grinded.
conversation, dude. I know.
Absolutely, bro.
So tell the folks, how they can get a hold of you. Anything you
Yeah.
want to plug? It's I'll leave the floor to you.
Yeah, so basically I'm on Instagram at Tekh Panda. It's TEHK Panda. So it's Tech, but it's spelled with a K.
Hmm.
And then Panda, I pretty much that's where I'm trying to build a following there. I have a YouTube channel if they want to subscribe to that, and Instagram. I have a Facebook, but it's not as active. I
Hmm.
try to keep it active and everything. And then that's the best way to reach out. They, want to collaborate or anything, man. I'm always open to meet new people and having conversations.
Yeah, right on, dude.
Yeah,
Hey, man, I appreciate it. All
absolutely.
right, everybody, till next time.